on, everybody? Welcome back to another day on the vlogs. Today we'll be finishing up the 335, a little bit of update of everything that went down. We did the inlets and outlets on the car. Those are all installed. We have the charge pipe with the HKS blow-off valve. Down pipes are installed, turbo's fully in there, oil pan gaskets in there. Right now I'm swapping out the spark plugs. Next will be the PR ignition coil system, and I believe that's it, besides putting back fans and vacuum line. Morning, Henry.
Morning.
So you traded the Z for an R8?
Yeah. Biggest mistake of my life.
Keep going. Stop. Yeah, as you guys can tell, these spark plugs are pretty done. Good thing we are replacing them. So I just finished putting in the new spark plugs. They were gapped to 0.28. Next up is the PR ignition coil system. If you guys don't know what that is, basically, if I show you right here, this is your regular ignition coil in the N54 motor, pretty standard. But right here is the PR ignition coil system. Lets you throw a fatter spark, things like that, more consistent. So you guys will be able to see that installed. Adam here, getting some stories for the Instagram page. Be sure to give us a follow at Precision Dynamics. So today, I'm taking a little bit of a break off the E90 turbos and just gonna knock this out real quick. But we have here a BMW M4, and what it came in for is pretty much a PPI and an oil change. For PPI, if you guys don't know, it's a post-purchase inspection. Pretty much, we're gonna inspect the whole car. The customer recently bought this car, and we're gonna let them know everything that's been wrong with the car, or if there's anything wrong, anything to look out for, any aftermarket modifications. Obviously, this is not a stock intake, so that will be noted. But I'll take you guys along for the PPI, and if you guys are interested in M4s, kind of things to look out for on these cars. Relatively, they're pretty bulletproof. The only things you really got to worry about is crank hub and just random leaks here and there, like any other BMW, but generally these cars are pretty good. So come along for the PPI. So starting out, I'll point here with my flashlight. We'll take a look around. Oil filter housing gasket is one of the things that does leak, and judging from everything that we're looking at, it's pretty dry. So I'd say we're safe there. Another thing is looking out for the valve cover. Those are another common failure point. And judging from everything that we're seeing here, from taking a look around, everything's looking pretty good. And we pretty much just go through the top, check things like coolant level, obviously. We're doing an oil change already, so that's good. And yeah, that pretty much concludes everything that kind of goes on here. Just checking things here, making sure all these little plastic clips and the hardware is all in there. Nothing's been, you know, kind of put back together incorrectly if the car was touched, and it was due to this intake. But overall, it's looking pretty clean so far. So now that we have the car lifted up, let's take a look underneath. We can see stock suspension. So the car hasn't been modified suspension-wise. Everything's looking pretty good. All the sensors and wires are in place. The N-link ball joints look pretty good. Control arms, tie rods, nothing bent, nothing funky going on like it's been through a crash. We have of course our oil drain bolt here. I'll be touching oil later, but we could go ahead and take a peek inside and look at the condition of the oil pan gasket and just take a look around and see if we see any fluids or anything like that that's going on. But so far this car is looking pretty healthy as far as I can tell. You know, you just want to check things from the pan, see if anything's dripping. That's obviously just condensation right there, so nothing too much to worry about. Everything's looking pretty good here. Stock exhaust. This car is pretty clean in its condition. So we could just go ahead and work our way back. Take a look at the rear differential. All that's looking good. No fluids puking out of it. Again, stock suspension in the rear. All these control arms are looking really good. So I'd say this guy's in the clear. You know, could probably use some new tires. It looks like he might have had some rubbing issue, or might have got caught in something in the wheel well. Rotors and brakes look fine. Everything's looking pretty good. Yeah, these tires in the rear definitely got chewed up sometime in its life. Take a look at the inner wheel liner, see what it might be hitting. But other than that, looking pretty good. Front tires have some good life on them still, so he's okay there. So now we're gonna proceed with the oil change with the car. Just let it drip like that. Oil's looking really clean here, or not clean, but it's dirty, but nothing out of the ordinary, no glistening metals, none of that. I've actually tasted oil to test to see if I can taste anything funny, like rod bearing issues and stuff like that. You'll taste copper, as you guys know. Some rod bearings have copper in them, especially in the BMWs. If it has any other funny tastes, I've blown a couple motors to tell what bad oil tastes like, so I generally have done that before, and we've had cars in here that have come with oil that looks like latte art, so that's why I do it. So something like this. It tastes like oil, so we're all good to go there. Also, if you guys didn't know, M4s and a lot of newer BMWs don't have dipsticks. You check the oil digitally, kind of like this. So kind of the verdict for this car, everything's really good for the customer. Car's really clean for what it is, low mileage on it, and pretty much he's good to go. From there on, just let the car go and hope he enjoys the car. So a little update on the 335 project. Everything's back on pretty much. PR coils are installed, inlets, outlets, charge pipes, HKS blow-off valve. Spark plugs are gapped to 0.28. We just got it filled back up with fluids, and right now we're letting the cooling system bleed. If you guys didn't know, 335s are actually self-bleeding with a little procedure that you can do inside the cabin. Right over here, let's go check out what Henry's doing. He's doing an oil change. He took all the way from 10 a.m. to, no, I'm just kidding. Henry actually did rod bearings on this M3 over here. You guys can see the old bearings right there. Let's see if it'll focus on it. It's a pretty common thing that we do here. Maybe one of these days when we get another one in, we'll do a little video on rod bearings, but it's a pretty simple procedure, but very necessary for these cars. They spin bearings like no tomorrow.
You can have fucking 30,000 miles and...
Yeah.
Hey, Aslan. What? Perfect.
Hey Aslan, why do you like the Mustang?
Yeah.
Why?
My future car.
Why?
It's got a diff cooler and that's about it.
Hey, it's better than an E90?
No.
Why not?
But your E90 doesn't have a diff cooler.
That is true.
I thought we got a funny arrow. So over here, actually, we have something pretty unusual in the shop that we don't usually see. We have an American car that's a crowd killer. This is a Shelby GT350. Hey, Aslan. So what'd you end up doing to this car?
Carbon fiber drive shaft.
Oh, wow.
4 low exhaust. And then what was the last piece you got? Diff flush. Or diff service.
So I heard you want a Mustang.
Well, this one's pretty cool, but I don't know.
Hey, just
Still
don't kill
pretty
any crowds in the
expensive
test drive, yeah?
What's up?
Just don't kill any crowds in the test
I'll
drive,
try
yeah?
not
Just, you know, if you're gonna hit an E90, hit yours.
I would never hit an E90.
All right, so now we gotta prime the car after the turbos. So
Prius Prime.
your Prius Prime? So reason being why we have to prime it is that you gotta get all the oils and everything and all the turbos. 10 times
We want to prime the turbos because they are brand new. There is no oil pressure in them whatsoever. We also want to push oil into the system since we did do oil pan gasket as well. Fully drained out all the oil pretty much everywhere in the system now. So we just want to make sure that there is pressure inside of the turbos, the crankcase, so that we have proper lubrication for the brand new turbos. That way the turbos aren't ran with no oil whatsoever. So let's crank it over. A lot of people do it by just disconnecting the fuel pump, stuff like that, but we're just gonna cycle it maybe 10 times. Just make sure that we have oil pressure. So let's get to it.
All right, cool. Let it go?
Yep.
All right, here we go, guys. And it lives.
So now it runs, and then we let it run, make sure that there's no leaks, check for any coolant leaks. Well, there won't be any coolant leaks, but main thing is just to make sure that it's not leaking any oil. At the same time, not misfiring, because we did do a lot of stuff like PR coils. We will see smoke coming out of the turbo side just because of our oily fingers touching it, burning off residual, stuff like that. So you guys can see right here, that's normal, not worried about that. So we're just gonna let it run idle for about maybe, it takes about, depends on the temperature, but we want to get it to normal operating temperature. On this car it'd be about 220, 230, and then once it gets to that point, then we just basically drive it. But now we look for any leaks.
Oh yeah.
It actually doesn't sound half bad.
Yeah, not too bad.
Alright, so right here we have two different crank hubs. Do the same job, but two are very different. So Mike here's gonna explain to us
Well,
the problem
there's
with
a
crank
bunch of
hubs.
different variations on crank hubs, but this is the OEM one from factory. It's a 3-piece crank hub. They utilize a friction disc right here to help stop the gears from spinning. It's basically sandpaper right there. And then what it does is you have one here, then this goes down. You have another one that goes right here, which is not on here obviously. Goes onto that. And then you have a bolt that goes through here. Now what you're depending on is this bolt to apply pressure to clamp this together so that this doesn't spin. So what a crank hub is actually going to be what controls your timing. So this controls your camshaft and your oil pump and your vanel timing. So how it works is this is bolted onto your crankshaft. This locks it into place with the timing chain, which allows it to spin the timing chain to, you know, control timing. The issue with this is that once this actually applies load, because this is a clockwise rotation, every time you get onto load, this bolt slowly backs out because it's spinning this direction. Bolt stays stationary. So it backs out the bolt, gets loose, and then this no longer has the clamping force that it needs. There's different solutions. This one's a 2-piece crank hub. That's a keyway here, the one over here, and it's a 2-piece. So this is from here to here is just one single piece versus that. And then this has a keyway rather than using a friction disc. Then on this other end of it, this crank hub uses 2 pins, dowel pins. And then once you drill into the crank, it actually goes into place. That locks it into the crankshaft so it doesn't allow it to spin. These are good, but there are better solutions. They have 4 pins, which can handle more load as well. Better than this, obviously double that. And then there's 1-piece crank hubs. The only one that makes 1 piece right now that I'm aware of is Gentani, and then obviously, you know, we're making ours.
Yeah.
So ours is already made. We are going to be releasing that one soon. We're already testing it on Kennedy's car. You showed them your Kennedy's car, right?
Well, Kennedy's car isn't here.
Oh, yeah, right. Never mind. You guys are gonna see his car soon. But we've been testing the crank hub on his car for about a month now. No issues. 1-piece crank hub. So Arlen will actually show you that once we actually have that car back as well, and then we should have our crank hub. I'm hoping by next week or so that we have it all in.
I was telling the viewers and everything, even if your car makes stock power, this still has the danger to slip. Is that true or is that false?
It is true. It doesn't matter what power you're at. I mean, the more power you put onto it, obviously the higher the chances are. But at the end of the day, it's not about, you know, how fast you can rev up the motor, right? Because horsepower is relative to how quick you can spool up the car, how fast it moves, right?
Yeah.
But no matter what, it's RPM based, because it's based on your RPM speed. Because no matter how fast your car is, it's basically every time you downshift, especially DCT, it'll slowly back that out. Yes, more horsepower can apply more load too, but it can fail stock or modified. More likely with more modified cars, which we've seen, obviously.
Yeah,
But
we've
then-
seen everything from stock to super modified, how
Yeah.
these things fail.
Yeah, another thing too, I'll just answer this too, because I know a lot of people ask this question. I heard that 2018 has a better revision that doesn't fail as often. Doesn't matter. I've seen them all fail. Then I hear people say, oh, well, mine's a 2014, you know, well, they bought it in 2015, or 2014, but it's 2015 model, which is F80. So they say, oh, well, you know, the early models didn't have issues. I've seen it fail. I fixed it. Before crank hub solutions were even a thing, I was replacing these with OEM ones back in 2015 and 2016. And I've seen 2016, 2017, and 2018s fail. It doesn't matter.
So no matter what M4 you have, replace your damn crank
Or
hub.
M3.
Or M3.
Or M2 comp.
Yeah, anything with an S55, replace your crank hub, because it's just going to be much better in the future, and you're going to be able to enjoy the car more.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things too. Like a lot of people are on forums and Facebook pages are saying that, you know, oh, well, you know, mine hasn't failed. You know, shops are just going to try to sell you on this. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, it's preventative maintenance, because if this does fail, your timing goes any more than 90 degrees, you're going to bend your valve. And if you bend the valve, you got to get the head pulled. And if you have to get the head pulled, that's not going to be cheap.
It's not.
And then even then, once you get the head pulled, change out the valves, then you got to do the crank hub anyways to prevent it. So it's kind of like one of those things, right? You buy a car, put that into factor of, you know, your cost of the car, get it fixed.
Would you rather spend, what is it, $3,000
Yeah,
to
like
get this done?
$3,300.
Yeah, it's like spend the $3,000, $3,300 to get it done, or turn that into a $10,000 job.
Yeah, 10,000 plus the 3,000 because you got to redo this.
Yeah. So
I mean, you're already there, right? You might as well do this.
yeah, guys, change your crank hubs, but that's a little bit of advice from Mike.
Yeah, I've been working these for a long time.
Cool. So, no more E90s, huh?
I mean, this is pretty nice, but I don't know. They're different cars. They compare different.
Today's vlog here at the shop, I guess a little recap of what we did. E90 pretty much got finished up, whole turbo jobs, all good to go. Just a few things we have to button up for the morning, but pretty much she's good to go. The GT350 that Aslan did was like a little snippet there. So that was pretty cool. Henry did rod bearings on the M3, and then we also did that PPI for the M4. So I gave you guys a little bit of things to look out for, and Mike gave you the information on the crank hub. If you guys do decide you want an M4, that's what you gotta look out for. So replace those crank hubs, because you don't want a $3,000 job turning into a $10,000 to potentially $15,000 job, depending on how much shit you break as time goes on. That's pretty much what you guys can expect from the videos from now on. Kind of just me documenting here everything at the shop. Eventually, when I do get another project or bring one of my projects down from San Jose, I'll be working on them here at the shop. We'll be doing some of the other guys' builds over here at the shop too. Aslan has some stuff for his car, so you guys will see his car soon. Yeah. He actually also has a YouTube channel. So is it on the link in your bio?
Yeah, it is.
So if you guys follow Aslan on Instagram, you'll see the tag somewhere like here.
Yeah.
He does videos on his 335. He's a little bit more in depth when it comes to a lot of the E92 stuff, especially N54s. So if you guys want more information on that, you should go check him out.
Yeah, check it out. I do like tutorials, sometimes just montages, videos. I do mainly a lot of installs and coding, things like that, so you'll find all that on my channel.
What did we talk about today? Clean up your fucking mess in that area.
Yes, sir.
I'll fucking